Well, we need to have some big conversations right then, and that was a big one by Johnny. And Johnny Hughes keep asking the probing questions, and the question about who made that call, and whether that rejoinder was just an afterthought. And because it's going to rub off negatively in terms of the cancellation of that event by Anas Aremeyao, Anas and the Tiger IPI team of their latest documentary, you know, sometimes I keep asking the questions. When you take the action and you don't critically think about its effects on public opinion on you, then you have to ask yourself, was it right in taking the action in itself? Well, so we need to now have a piece of the concerns and the issues laid out bare on big issues right here. And I do have with me Grace Boachidankwa. He's a lead communicator for government, and so representing government's communication team or the MPP. And thank you, Grace. Thank you for joining me.
Good morning.
Yeah,
it's good to be here.
You're always very calm. I love your smoke. It's nice.
Thank you.
Get me one if you can.
I would, absolutely.
No, I'll hold you to it.
Not a problem at all.
All right, and then Govins Kwame Agboja is a member of parliament for Adaklu. Thank you for joining me. He's also on the Roads and Transport Committee, if I'm right.
Yes, I speak for the minority on roads and transport.
Great one. The motorway is not nice, so I don't know what you are doing about it.
Who is doing it? Myself or the
committee? You are a big politician, so I need to ask you a question.
Oh yes, the motorway. I mean, it's
have you tried on it lately?
Yes, just even. It's not the best. It's got very dangerous spots on it, but it's not different from roads across the country. I mean, almost everywhere. I'm not saying government isn't doing anything at all, but the condition on our roads are terrible across the country because of lack of investment and payment of contractors and other things. So it's the wish of everybody for the motorway to be done. But you know my running battle with the ministry, signing a contract with Motor Angels, which is an illegality because Motor Angels is a foreign company. Article 1815 of the Constitution requires that when you enter into those kind of agreements with a foreign entity, you come to Parliament. They never did. So as far as I'm concerned, that so-called contract is null and void. It doesn't exist. So I encourage government to look inwards and see if some Ghanaian contractors and investors can do something about it. We don't have to build the entire motorway in a day. We can do it in phases. I mean, you can do maintenance first, make effort to correct the defective parts, and then we can start adding.
Have you seen the maintenance as done? We use bitumen to patch concrete roads.
I can understand what's going on there because you see, when you do concrete work, it requires longer time to cure, but not all the time. Sometimes they actually use concrete, but sometimes when it gets quite terrible, I think filling it with something, it's better than leaving the hole there. That's what it is.
Well, I always apply that route, so it's always a difficulty because you never know when you're going to hit the next hole. Yeah. And the ties.
Yeah, but I can tell you, motorway
the ties are always
it's still one of the best routes in the country if you compare to other places that people live across the country. But you are a Accra person, so you probably know only about Accra.
Oh.
We in the village.
But your training, the motorway has expired, right?
Long ago.
Concrete road. Okay, I remember the criticism Kwame Nkrumah received when he did that road. Well, now let's get on to the straight and narrow issues, and it's about the beginning of what now has been outlined as a new way of making sure that we bridge the gap between food that is coming from the farm gates and then also what is being consumed in the big cities, especially in Accra. And I have to start with you, Grace. So far, how would you assess just some few days of that policy where we have foods now displayed across the frontage of the Ministry of Agric, if not the whole of the ministries? Should be a good sight.
Very good morning to you, Roland. And I'd like to add my voice to congratulate Portia Gabor for winning the Journalist of the Year. Journalists work very hard, and clearly as a nation we need authentic journalism to ensure that we're able to serve the good people of this country quite well. You know, on food and Agric Minister's desire to set an example, especially for market women, so the prices of food could come down in terms of cost. I have found it to be quite innovative, and I'll tell you why.
The policy.
You will recall when the president addressed the nation on the economy, he stated very clearly how he pleaded with the market women and told them that it's important that we all burden share because of the responsibilities that we have in the country, and that as it relates food inflation, it's as a result of some of the things that we have brought upon ourselves as a country. And so the Agric Minister stated very clearly that there's a bumper harvest, which I believe every single time I come into Accra or I travel from Accra to the hinterlands, I see trucks, loads of plantain or tubers of yam or onion coming into Greater Accra. But I can understand that sometimes, yes, people would want to add prices to it. I mean, I'm aware that some of these food items cost quite low, even at the farm market. But when they come into the city, it's quite high and it's very expensive. So the Agric Minister clearly set out to bring foodstuffs into the ministry, especially for planting for food and jobs, to allow the Ghanaian people who would want to buy from the ministry to purchase. I'm aware that many people went to the ministry to purchase the food items that they need. I'm not too sure how sustainable that is, but I can imagine that it's just to set an example really to our market women, people in Makola, Dome, Achimota, Okaikwe, Malata, and all of those market areas to reduce their items. So I would say that it's early days yet, but I'm sure that it would serve as an example really to market women so that they can be able to reduce their food items, and I think that's critically key.
Now, in announcing the policy, Mr. Govins, and I know that especially because they are constituents of yours who also undertake farming, there should have been perhaps, in my view, some level of consistency in terms of providing some transport, rather, for these market women as part of a buffer in the measure of policy, so that also tend to reduce costs instead of coming to display foods at the ministry.
Thank you very much, brother. Good morning to my good friend also on the show. I'm happy to be sharing this wonderful platform. Good morning to your viewers, especially those from Adaklu. I want to take the opportunity to congratulate the NDC for all the regions that have successfully carried out their regional elections. And I want to commend everybody who participated, both losers and winners. This is an internal process. Let's quickly complete the process in other regions and get ready to put out policies that address the suffering of the people and win their hearts, so that in 2024 they'll give us the nod to be able to govern the country. I also want to acknowledge the fact that Saturday was exactly 2 years since we lost our hero, President Rawlings, and I still want to send condolences to the entire country, the family, and the NDC. And we hope that some of his vision, some of the things he thought we could do as a country, we would not forget them and then do the right thing so that this country will be better. You were talking about policy. I'm not aware there's any policy. This government is fond of putting out knee-jerk reaction whenever there's anything.
What do you mean by that?
A policy is what you have collected data, analyzed data, and actually come up with solutions. So there are two sides. This is a problem. This is the solution. And in between, there has to be some synergy of real.
Well, the man has great experience. He has the Ministry of Food and Agriculture. There's no better person to have data and to input into policy than him.
I have no doubt about him being a minister. I have no doubt about him being a farmer. He's probably
his experience, right?
Has a bigger farm than me. But I remember
big development
he couldn't tell the price of plantain some time ago, saying a bunch of plantain was 4 cedis. And I have a personal problem because he came to Parliament, and I blame somebody like you when the man for about 2 years claimed that he's conducted investigation into the audit on cocoa roads and said publicly that they have completed that, and people like you have failed to get a copy of that report and show it to
well,
people
like you are also on the Roads and Transport Committee.
He basically...
What did you undertake to make sure that you did correct the minister?
I asked the question in Parliament. He pretended he presented the report.
So you failed?
That report...
You were not consistent enough.
No, because in other life, you people would have consistently insisted, anywhere you see him, give us a copy of the report. But for some reason, you have decided to let him get away.
But you directly questioned the minister in Parliament.
Yes, I questioned him. He can't do it. But
you have a greater responsibility, Mr. Kwame Govins-Agbodja.
It is your failure to insist.
Never our failure. I think it's your failure as somebody who has questions of the minister who has oversight responsibility.
And I asked him, and he pretended he laid a report, and that report is not available in Parliament.
So you're saying he pretended?
Yes, he pretended, because that report is not available in Parliament. So I am urging you, just as you've been doing it diligently in the time of NBC, we are asking Media General, get us a copy of the audit into the Kuku Road report. Will you?
Yeah, we will. But if you as a legislator also can't get it, I keep wondering.
And the issue about this, I can tell you there's no policy. It's a knee-jerk reaction, and then the solution should tell you how hollow what he said was. My brother, why are prices of foodstuff so high? In fact, probably one of the highest in the world. Why is it so high? Because of the cost of production. 2 years, 1.5 years ago, a bag of fertilizer was about 95 cedis. Today, it's approaching 500 Ghana cedi. How many farmers can afford to buy fertilizer to be able to produce, higher yields of whatever they are cultivating? 2, we have a situation where, in the past, the cost of the supply chain in terms of transportation, maybe at a point in time, a liter of petrol would have been 4-5 cedis. Today is 23 cedis. So what is the Agric Minister going to do by bringing a bunch of plantain to his ministry to sell to the people of Adaklu?
So you're saying it's the operational cost that is impacting the price?
It's a useless venture because it's not sustainable.
Oh, how can you describe a policy as useless?
Is he going to be able to bring plantain to the ministry to sell to the people of Adaklu? How is this so-called knee-jerk reaction going to address the price of foodstuff at Wenchi? It is not sustainable. It's the same knee-jerk reaction, and instead of people pushing back and say that policymakers, politicians, speak with a bit of respect to the people of this country. What is he going to do? So if I go to Minister of Agric right now, I can get plantain and yam cheaper than everywhere else in the country? Is that what is going to happen? What is that going to be? Is he going to reduce the price of diesel, of the truck transporting yam from Pasa to Accra? How is that policy going to reduce the cost of fuel? How is that going to reduce the cost of fertilizer? What we are saying is that you need to intervene by reducing the cost that goes into the cultivation of crops. Then you deal with the supply chain issues. Then the prices will automatically come down. This idea about you call it policy, and I tell you that it's just a knee-jerk reaction. It won't amount to zilch. It is just a 9-day wonder. Like anything they do, one district, one factory. I've seen warehouses that existed in Tema before this government took over. They planting how do you call it? One district, one factory in front. In fact, some of them are still empty warehouses, and they count it as 100 and something factories built and other thing because people actually don't criticize them. People actually...
Well, you're in Parliament. The policy, we're told, includes both having new ones and then existing ones also policy? Incorporated.
Has there ever been a time in our country since independence that individuals, through their own ingenuity, were not building factories? Show me which period, which year that in the history of this country that individuals didn't do their own investment and came out with factories. When? So if Senyo Hossi is trying to do something in Adaklu in terms of rice production, you come and plant how do you call it, one district, one factory in front of it, it means that you have done it. I mean, what is this? So, my brother, I can tell you we are in a very serious problem in terms of cost of food. And when you get to a point where people decide whether to eat or not to eat, whether to eat 2 times or to eat once a day, it tells you that people are being pushed to the wall to the extent that the fight back might not be good news for any of us. So whatever we can do to address this issue instead of the cosmetic and the knee-jerk reaction things we're talking about. I was surprised that the media couldn't clearly tell the minister stop the the
Well,
gimmick.
we're going to go to the minister very soon. Now, let's listen to the minister when he was having that interaction and made that forthwith, that policy announcement.
I just come back from 5 regions in the southern forest belt, and it's very clear when you are there that there's a lot of food. The price of a bunch of plantain, Mr. Speaker, was only 6-7 cities. And yet, when it comes to the capital, Serioso, it's 12 cities. Just from Bodi to Serioso, the price doubles. Dambai, you can get a tube of yam, the Speaker, for only 6 cities. And yes, and you get to Accra, and it's 24 cities. So these are the kind of disparities between food prices in the producing areas and the big towns and cities like Accra and Takoradi. If you include transport, you include handling, local collections, and then all the way to Accra, you consistently get maybe 1/3. So transport alone cannot account for such a huge doubling or even tripling of the prices. And this is why the ministry is taking the suggestion of the Western North Regional Director that they should help at the farm gate to collect produce and bring it to my office at the Ministry of Food and Agriculture for the civil servants to benefit from the huge gap between the two. And we are going to start next week to experiment that, and we see how it goes. Some are saying it's the market women who are making supernormal profits. Some are saying it's traders, but I definitely know with this analysis that it's not transportation.
And we do have the General Secretary for the General Agricultural Workers Union, Edward Carriere. He's also a legal practitioner as well, also on the line. Good morning to you, sir.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Yeah, that policy announced by the minister, perfect policy. Implementation started last week. And I'm thinking, if we're going to have this makeshift display of goods following the cutting of these goods, either supervised or also shored up by the ministry, that's a good one, in my thinking as a consumer. What do you think?
Well, let me say good morning to you, and then the honorable members in your studio. I say good morning to them. As a consumer, you have a short-term need and a long-term need. And of course, the person who will just come and buy today and goes away will say that, look, I am happy, maybe price has come down. Mm-hmm. But if you analyze this policy decision of the ministry, it is not solving any problem. It's not solving problem because even within Accra and in all the markets, prices are not the same. If you go to a particular market, the price in the morning and the price in the evening for items are not the same. One corner of the market to another part of the market, prices are not the same. There are some days that in the market prices are different from other days. So we are not seeing the effectiveness of this policy.
Oh, it just started last week. Please relax for him. I think that the main objective is to make sure that profiteering by those who are in the middle, either market queens, etc., is not exacerbated, so to speak.
That is what I rather think that the ministry is bound to fail. Because how did they suddenly think that it is only this year, 2022, that middlemen and women are profiteering? What about the previous years? I mean, so it is one of the arguments they want to make to blame the middlemen, and that one they've been making it, that it is out of profiteering, but not a genuine, constraint. That is why price of foodstuffs are going up in the urban centers. We all know that there's price differentiation between the farm gate and then the market center. That is why we normally have factory price, wholesale price, and then retail price for manufactured goods. So this whole argument doesn't go to the core of the reasons why, or addressing the fundamental causes of the food price hikes.
Mr. Kaire.
And again, let me just make this one. And again, the ministry is not accounting to us. I don't know whether I have not heard, but how much budget is involved in this exercise? We need to know. But we don't want that after the exercise, the ministry comes to tell us that we have spent so much money in it. And you can't go into an exercise of this nature without a budget. We need to know the budget. 2, we need to know their blueprint. That if this pilot exercise succeeds, this is what we are going to do. And that it is doable, it is feasible, and the cost involved is good for the benefit that we are going to get from it. These things, if they are not spelled out to us now, of course, it is very difficult for some of us to subscribe to an exercise that is not even targeting the foodstuffs that are the main core of the Planting for Food and Jobs subsidy. It is maize and rice. And the question we have to ask now, do we have maize? Do we have rice? Do we have tomato? They should be answering those questions. And they should also be telling us what the situation will look like in terms of foodstuffs next year. Because we are not only concerned about eating today, we are concerned about the future.
Is it your mind that we don't have enough food stock for the period ending the year and then the next half of next year? And then also, what is accounting for the high prices in the cities, especially Accra, for foodstuff?
You see, if you look at what we have done this year in terms of our investment in agriculture, there's no way out we are going to have a good yield this year. The Ministry of Agriculture decided to reduce the subsidy on fertilizer from 36% in 2021 to 15% in 2022. Apart from that, the total volume of fertilizer that was subsidized in 2021 has been reduced to only a quarter in 2022. So, if, for instance, 100 bags of fertilizer were subsidized in 2021, with the 36%. This year, 2022, they are only subsidizing 25 bags. And then, on top of it, they have reduced the subsidy to only 15%. And in the face of all this, price of fertilizer is tripling. So farmers have scaled down their farm size, and they have also, because of other costs of production going high, they have scaled down the size of their farms. The yield per plot will go down because we are going to apply less fertilizer this year in 2022 on our farms. So aggregate food production at the end of the year, which we are just at the end, we are harvesting from October to December, will be low. So we should expect that there's going to be low output in agricultural produce, particularly maize, soybean, and rice. Because these are areas that use a lot of fertilizer, and there's no fertilizer for them. Or the price of fertilizer has reached a point where they cannot even buy the quantities they used to buy last year, let alone to talk about increasing it.
So, Mr. Kaire, are you saying that the minister is lying? Because the minister says that everything has been provided. The prices are low at the farm gate, and so he doesn't see the reason why they should be high at the market centers. And you are here claiming that there's been reduction in subsidies in fertilizer. Of course, we know why that is. And then also we have low yields, while the minister says that the yields are high. So who is saying the truth and who is not?
Well, the minister has said a lot of things. But when you go on the ground, it is not so. It is this minister who said that the Plan for Food and Jobs program has been 100% successful. He's the one who said it. But it is not what he says. It is also about what is on the ground. And I'm saying that for him to blame middlemen that they are profiteering, that's why I'm asking the question. Why is it that they did not profiteer in the previous years? Have the motive of middlemen have now suddenly changed in 2022 to profiteer and not do that in previous years? Again, you see, it is just about when you have a public institution refusing to do their core mandate and running after peripheral issues. Look, there's no way out. This ministry has got the capacity to continue to carry out this exercise that they are doing, and that we should expect that it will be successful, and expect that it will be sustainable. But in all these things, there is cost to it. There's cost to it, and I believe sincerely that the state at which we have reached in our economic issues, where we have all accepted that we are in economic crisis, then every accountability becomes key. Transparency becomes key. Because His Excellency the President invited us to rally behind the government to ensure that we get out of this crisis. If we are going to do that, then we also expect government and its institutions to be transparent to us.
All right.
So for me, without a budget, which to let all of us know, is we cannot follow them. Because look, at the close of the day, how are you going to measure the success of this particular program? It is the cost-benefit analysis. And they are refusing to disclose all this to the public.
Well, thank you very much. Edward Kyrie is the General Secretary for the General Agricultural Workers Union. From what he's saying, there seems to be some inconsistency in what the minister says based on what is on the ground, and they tend to monitor the ground as well. You ask the Peasant Farmers Association, and that's what they also say. It looks like we are not planting enough, but in the books of government, there are enough produce.
Roland, I think that the minister is right to have stated that there's a bumper harvest. I'm not a farmer, but I speak to farmers who also admit that they have yields a lot of products that they are selling. And so I can't go contrary to what I have been told and what I'm aware of. In addition, the PFJ market, it's basically, the ministry is basically facilitating private persons to bring these foodstuffs. So it comes at no cost to government. And then also we are going to go across other regions to see to it that other regions also have a fair benefit of what is happening in Greater Accra, and we would also take it to other local districts. But I have stated that the rationale really behind the PFJ market is to set an example for our various market women in the various marketplaces to reduce their cost. The plan is also to set up some other avenues, not just the ministry, but other avenues within the market. If you recall, Mr. Carrere stated that there are some times that you go to the market, things are cheaper. There are times that things are more expensive. I recall many years ago when I used to go to the markets. Now I don't anymore. But many years ago when I used to go to the markets, I would go around 4 a.m. and I could get these things at a very cheaper price because they are just removing it from the truck. And there are times if you go maybe in the evening around 6 o'clock and you can get your prices quite cheap. And so that's the goal of what we seek to do. And I think that we should just encourage the process and see to it that the Ghanaian people benefit them all.
By June this year, the minister had announced that we'd pumped in excess of over 2 billion cedis into the planting for food and jobs.
That is a tragedy, actually.
Why?
If we actually invested that amount of money, okay, take Media General. You went to the bank. Let's say you went to the bank, took a loan of $2 billion or Ghana cedi to invest in agriculture. You should be telling your board or shareholders where you invested that money and how that money can be repaid and the dividend on that money. Can you see anything in terms of this PFJ that tells you, at the end of the day, if we actually invested this money properly, the only way to measure that should have been availability and affordability of the prices, which is totally out of the window. I want to give the opportunity to the minister to actually retract and apologize to market women,
for what?
Calling them that they are profiteering. That is the worst you can say about people who are enterprising, who are actually doing their best, taking loans, going across the country with exorbitant transportation costs to bring food to places that you and I buy. And because your own PFJ has failed, and instead of you applauding them and encouraging them to do more so that prices will come down when you also take the decision you needed to take, like the gentleman said, control the cost of production of foodstuff, which you have actually neglected. You're not doing anything about it.
In what way could that have been done?
The price of fertilizer. It was 30% a rebate on it. You reduce it to 15%. So the farmer is worse off. As long as you reduce the rebate on it, the farmer is worse off. So you saw that there's a direct correlation between the how do you call it, the rebate on fertilizer and how much is consumed. The higher it is, the less farmers consume on it. So the minister must apologize to people. And let me tell you, so is the minister actually, he's using plantain. My brother, so the guy at Pong this morning should take a car from Pong, forget about the transport fare, and go to the ministry to buy a cheaper plantain. Does that make sense?
It's supposed to be an example.
An example. So where is the other example?
Well, so if it's cheaper at the ministries, then it means that it can be replicated in other markets.
I'm asking you, is it cheaper because if you go to the ministry right now, is the plantain still there? And is it only plantain we eat? Is he going to do it for rice? Is he going to do it for maize? Cooking oil? Okay, why is the Minister of Works and Housing not piling trucks of, how do you call it, cement at the ministry so that builders will buy cement at a cheaper price?
What's your point in that?
The point I'm saying is that what they are doing is not sustainable. Why is the energy minister not having a truck of tankers of fuel selling it cheaper than what it is at the forecourt at Goil and other things? It tells you that this has nothing to do with sustainability. It's about doing something. And indeed, it's been going around the country. I'm not sure whether it's going around the country because of farmers or other reasons. But the point is that these examples, we eat rice, we eat cassava, we eat maize, we consume cooking oil and other things. Is he going to do the same thing? Okay, this morning, we should be expecting the Works and Housing Minister to announce his strategy to reduce the price of cement. And the Energy Minister, good friend, we are waiting for the tankers in front of your office to sell fuel cheaper than it is at Goil
But that's just trivializing.
No, right? It's not trivializing it.
Because the minister has made a very straightforward point. That on the ground, he believes that there's a lot of food based on the data he has at the ministry.
Which data?
And then when you come to Agbogbloshie and some of the rest, the prices of food stuff are high, which all of us as consumers tend to experience.
He's basically saying that it has nothing, the cost of food on the market has nothing to do with the price, the fact that fertilizer was 95 cedis a year ago and it's over 400 cedis today. It has nothing to do with the price. That the cost of transport today from Adenta to Accra has increased. So surely, if a trader puts his wares on a trotro, you pay more. He's saying that has nothing to do with that. So he's basically saying that the problem is the people. The problem is the trader. The problem is the trader who is actually borrowing money at a higher cost today to go to a Techiman to go and bring the thing. And you see, these traders should see this minister as a solution, not the problem. And this minister, as you said, took 2 billion. And the result is that he needed to now turn himself to a plantain seller to be able to achieve his vision of President Akufo-Addo as a successful Agric Minister. The only way he can prove that is to sell plantain. Okay, add rice, add cooking oil, turn the whole ministry into Accra Mall so that you are now selling this thing. What a cheap government.
It's not a cheap.
What a wayward way of coming up with policies.
What's the alternative?
The alternative is for this government, if there was a way they could go earlier, Because they have lost track.
No.
The alternative...
No. The alternative, because they have a mandate. Then that mandate can only end in 2020.
If you read Article 60,
yes,
and
okay.
all they do it to 69, the president can resign. Nobody has to force him.
Oh, the president is
some people have started school.
So I'm asking you the question. I'm asking you the question.
Yes.
What's the alternative to making sure that we have low cost of food?
Okay. Before I answer that, some people have started school, have decided school is not for them. They drop out of school. If you have been elected as president for 4 years and you think you can't do it, you can resign. The constitution allows you to do that. You can resign with your own government. The solution is this. Why did you reduce the subsidy on fertilizer? What you have done have shown direct correlation in the tonnage of fertilizer that is consumed. Because you made it more expensive, farmers couldn't do that. That is why the representative is saying that indeed the volumes that we are going to get on some farms will reduce because the size of the farms that people are cultivating has reduced as well. Because if maybe 400 Ghana cedi in 2020 can buy me 4 bags of fertilizer, today it can only buy you 1 bag. It tells you that if you don't take time, you could only cultivate what 1 bag of fertilizer can do. So I am encouraging this. And you see, I'm saying that there are more competent people, even inside NPP, who can manage.
So you are questioning the competence of the minister?
I'm saying there are more competent people in NPP that I know that can manage this economy, that can manage Ministry of Food and Agriculture, or not turn themselves into plantain. I don't even know why he's fixated on plantain every day. Every example he's got is plantain. What about rice and other things? Why are those people not being given the opportunity? The president is running the country as if it's a personal business. Sack some people and get some proper people who can think on their feet and get solutions that affect me, my price. Today, if I hold 100 cedis in my pocket, the value of that 100 cedis is about 45 cedis. So I've got my haircut already. I don't have to wait for a haircut in the budget. I'm suffering. You are suffering. Everybody watching us is suffering. It is no longer a joke. It's not about NDC, NPP. And the president is sitting somewhere comfortably and allowing this minister to be doing this to him. And he doesn't see anything wrong.
The minister is in charge of policy. Now, I have Marathon Kobna, for example, saying prices are high because inflation is skyrocketing. People can't buy fuel. Roads are bad in the farming communities. And all these lead up to the pricing. Now, Adam Abdul Kadir is saying, is Accra the only place where people are suffering from hardship? Besides that, government will have to do more and better taxes will have to come in. Now, look, there's a bigger conversation now about whether we have had the right policy to enable us to reduce importation of rice and some poultry, etc., that we depend on. That we could have better put a cap, use tariff barriers so that we reinvested in our value chain locally, which we haven't done over the last 6 years. And that is what we're experiencing some of these things.
You know, Roland, Ghanaians have different tastes. Honestly, I know that Ghanaians
What do you mean by Ghanaians have different tastes?
You know, when you go to other countries, like Peru, Peru has close to about 200 different types of dishes. In this country, there are very few people who eat local dishes. And very few people who have acquired a local Ghanaian taste. So, you know, if you look at the way the president addressed the nation and stated that we are going to review, especially the importation of rice, vegetable oil, toothpaste, pasta, ceramics, water, and the likes, it's clearly a journey that needs to begin. Because if you want to identify people, you identify people based on their culture. And culture is what people wear, what people eat, and then an accent that people even use. Our government has tried their best, really, as it relates to tackling the issues that have arisen. I am very, very confident that even in the midst of expansion of some of the policies that we have put in place, much as the Honorable MP has a lot of despair in the process, I am extremely confident that in the midst of these challenges, we seek to bring out the best solutions that would be able to address the issues. Now, there's a lot of talk around one district, one factory. And the real perspective is that government sought to establish factories and then also support existing factories.
With the objective or...
Well, with the objective of meeting up to the needs and demands of the Ghanaian.
Do you think those objectives have been met?
Absolutely. I mean, if I look at and I review the factories that have been set up, we set out to do close to about 256 factories. I think that by estimation we've done about 180 plus factories, which meets different KPIs of government. Clearly, I brought in a lot more job opportunities for younger persons. Clearly, the one district, one factory is a journey. And I have not seen any government that has tackled industrialization head-on in the manner in which we have tackled industrialization head-on. And I think that the Ghanaian people and people that have really benefited from the one district, one factory policy are indeed very excited that the president initiated this. I think that we shouldn't hail and crucify the Agric Minister yet. This is a pilot that is being done. I've stated that it's going to go to other regions. I'm very certain that it's going to go to Adaklu as well, where the MP comes from. So the people within the environment can be able to get foodstuffs at an affordable price. And I do not think that it's just an emphasis on plantain. It's for every other thing.
Prior to 2017, the president said the country will be turned from a Gaggisbergian one into an industrialized one, from taxation to production. Before 2017, we were importing around $400 million, $500 million worth of rice. We've now exceeded that.
1 billion.
There's tin tomatoes, there's poultry, and all those numbers have exceeded in 6 years. So we're giving the leverage for people to be importing and not subsidizing locals. And so if we say, for example, that Roland likes rice, and I love rice, I should be getting homegrown rice. And then there should be an effort by way of policy on the part of government to reduce imports of rice so that I am compelled to consume local rice. I mean, that's the direction. Nigeria has done it with tomatoes, with rice, etc. We have failed at that over the last period.
No, Ghana is getting there. We haven't failed.
Clearly,
no,
the numbers don't speak to it, Mr. Wachidankwa.
Ghana is getting there. You remember Dako Farms many years ago. Government revamped Dako Farms. As I speak to you, Dako Farms is having a lot of poultry. I'm deeply concerned that I know a particular company in this country that brings chicken from Brazil, and the Ghanaian people consume it. Having traveled quite a bit, especially even when you go to our neighboring countries like Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali, Togo, you find that they do a lot of local chicken. I mean, that's what you will get. You will not even get any frozen thing. So the real encouragement, like I've stated, is for the Ghanaian people to change their appetite. The Ghanaian taste bud is more foreign than it is of Ghana. And we need to encourage, I think that in recent times, I saw that in Volta region, there was a food fair. We need to encourage a lot more of our local dishes. We need to encourage more of our men to learn how to cook, and more of our women as well to cook different types of dishes regardless of your ethnic groups. And I'm very certain that once we are able to do a lot of that, our taste bud will change. And once our taste bud changes and we have put a review on a number of the importation, then we can make some very good positive headway.
But consistently, it has to be policy, right? If the food coming from outside is cheaper because it's well subsidized for the farmer outside, and then the ones that are produced locally are more expensive, the consumer will go for the one that has less price.
Well, you've just...
so it's not about taste bud, is it?
No, you've just nailed it. The truth is that I agree with him that sometimes we need to be patriotic, and in fact, if you go to a shop, a typical shop, Tesco's in London, they will write on the beef, this is British beef sourced from within the country. A patriotic person will say, and many of the times, that is slightly cheaper. The average shopper will shop not based on this is British beef alone.
On patriotism.
But also in his pocket. So if you say this is Ghanaian-made rice and it's more expensive, what kind of patriotism are you expecting from me if I cannot afford it? If a Ghanaian chicken is more expensive than imported chicken, what patriotism are you expecting from me? The truth is that incrementally, right from 2005 thereabout, we have taken steps as a country to increase rice production. The data shows that year on year, the volumes have been increasing slightly. The difficulty is that the volumes we are importing is still outstripping how much we are producing. And because we haven't given enough support to the local producer, I mean, my colleague in Parliament, Akando, is a major rice producer, bagged and everything. If they don't tell you, if I don't give you the name of the brand, you will buy it as a foreign. But he complains about the cost of production, and a number of people across this country are doing same. So until we get to a point where it is cheaper to produce things here for the producer, it is going to be difficult for that product to be within the purchasing power of the average Ghanaian. So it is not because we are not producing rice. There are more rice farms across, springing up every day, but the cost of producing that rice is more. And as a policy, I agree with you. It is not uncommon to trace the major importers of chicken, fish, rice, right to the Flagstaff House. They are people linked to government. So if on one hand you are saying the farmer should produce more,
it's a false allegation.
Well, I'm saying recently somebody
You say it's a false allegation.
Somebody was accused of underpaying tax and other things without mentioning the name, and they talked about the volumes and other things. If you compare that volume with the volume of the importers, exporters, that individual would end up being the largest importer of this, and that person sits in government.
No,
that person is a government official, and I'm saying
not
that
anymore.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Well, that is a good mid ground. Okay, as of the time I know, that person was, and it doesn't help anybody.
You're just talking about the association in itself, that people are associated with government, and so as a result, they're given the liberties to do the import.
If you really want to help, if you really want to help poultry farmers,
the effort should be made.
Exactly. The first thing you should be considering is, where is the maize today? At a price that they can buy, because maize forms a large component of poultry feed. Where is the soya that they can use? Where is other chemicals that they can use? It's all expensive. So that is why it's more expensive. But if you don't do that, and yet you have, because of your association with some people, you give them the leverage to import uncontrolled volumes of poultry chicken, the Ghanaian poultry farmer.
To compete with the local ones.
Exactly.
Well, Governance Kwame Agboja is a member of Parliament for Adaklu. And then also, Agric Ministry is also here with us, representing government communication team. We're taking a break. When we come back, we'll ask the Tony question about the essential in Parliament as being the motion, of course, accepted by the Speaker. And subsequently, when that was laid before the House, a committee is in place, but the processes that we have to go through and what we're likely to see. And then when the budget is expected to be announced, because Agric has some great answers for us on that subject. We're taking a break. We'll be right back.